Hello everyone, this is Amit Latigra. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how can we print a pattern on screen using a Python program. And to begin with, let's first understand what a pattern is. So pattern is something like we can print on screen some asterisk in appropriate order like this or like this or even like this, or to print numbers like this, or prints alphabets like this, whatsoever, or even have a pyramid of asterisk like this, or to print numbers like this, as I mentioned earlier, or to have a diamond like this. So these are the different patterns. So in subsequent videos, I will explain a flowchart and Python program for respective patterns. But in this program, I want to begin with this pattern. So here in pattern, basically in input, I want to ask a user how many rows and columns user wants. Say number of rows and number of columns. If user is entering 3 rows and 4 columns, so I want to print 3 lines of asterisk by keeping 4 asterisk in each line. So my pattern will look like this. This is my row number 1, row number 2, row number 3, and this is my column number 1, column number 2, column number 3, column number 4. So if you observe here, to generate such kind of patterns, what basically we require is a concept of repetition, because we are repeatedly printing asterisk on screen. If user is entering 2 rows and 3 columns, then my pattern looks like this. So now you can observe carefully how I am drawing asterisk. I am drawing in this way, moving left to right, top to bottom. Now I'm moving for a second row and again left to right. So this is a simple concept. How can we achieve this kind of patterns on screen? So let's break up it in again a very simple way. Consider user wants say 1 cross 4, meaning only one row, but 4 times asterisk in that row. So here if you observe, it's a repetition. Repetition to produce a content column wise. I'm saying here column wise because if we can further break up in terms of metrics, it looks like this. This is my row number 1, row number 2, column number 1, column number 2, column number 3. So in respective columns, I am putting similar asterisk. So this can be achieved using a concept of repetition. Let's first focus how can we print such kind of asterisk on screen in only one row. Means we are asking user how many columns user wants irrespective of number of row, because it is fixed here and it is a 1. So how flowchart looks like for this program? Only one row, multiple columns. So basically we need to start a flowchart. We need to take an input from the user. In input, we require number of columns, so NC. Then we need to initialize our loop variable. So let's use column for it. Let's initialize it with 1. Now repetition, so how many times? So it indicates condition here. In condition, 2 possibilities. One is false, one is true. Let's consider a condition first. Is my condition, so how many times how many times we need to produce asterisk one by one on screen. It depends on number of columns. So starting with one, progressively we require two, then three, then four. So we have already initialized column variable with one. We need to add one each time till we reach to the final number, and final number is number of columns here. So my condition looks like, is column less than or equivalent to total number of columns? If it is true, meaning we need to display asterisk on screen. So print asterisk. We need to increase value of column by 1. So column is equal to column plus 1. And after that, we need to go to the beginning of the loop. If it is false, means we need to stop this program. Let's understand how it works. Input number of column, user is entering 3 here. Column is equal to 1. Value of column is 1. So here condition is 1 less than or equivalent to number of column, that is 3. Is it true? Yes. Print asterisk. It's going to print first asterisk on screen. Column is equal to column plus 1. It becomes 2 now. 2 less than or equivalent to 3. True. Is going to print second asterisk, column plus 1. 3. Condition looks like 3 less than or equivalent to 3. Still it is true. Third asterisk on screen, column plus 1. It is 4 now. 4 less than or equivalent to 3, false, stop. So in output, it is exactly what we require. Let's write its Python program first before going deeper. So we require one variable number of columns. We need typecasting, then input, enter number of columns, and let's initialize column variable as per flowchart to 1. Let's say while loop, while column is less than or equivalent to total number of column. If it is true, we need to display asterisk on screen. Finally, adding 1 to the column. So column is equal to column plus 1. Let's save. And let's check its output. I want to explain one more thing, but that I will discuss after execution. Meaning I want to show here how it is going to print asterisk, whether it is in the same line or in a different line. So let's first check output. So let me execute my program, enter number of columns. Let's keep 3. So here it is printing 3 asterisk, but in different lines, not in the same line. This is specifically for Python, where we are using a print statement. So what exactly it does, it prints asterisk and moves to the new line. Again, print statement, print, moving to the new line. So this new line is basically, we are considering as a skip sequence character \n, meaning a new line. We do not want to move to the new line. How we can achieve this? Here, after printing a content, we can write and. What we require in and, by default, it is a new line. This is by default, meaning let me execute it again, say 4. So similar output. This is by default. Even if we don't write it, it is considered like this only. So both are same. So what I want to do, instead of new line, I don't want to do anything. Let's keep it as it is. No new line. Let's execute code now. So now it is in the same line. Now I want to put one blank space at end. So let's put blank space here and let's execute code. So now I'm getting blank spaces here. So this is very simple. Our Python program to print a number of asterisk in one row. Now for multiple rows, whatever we did it for one row, we need to do it multiple times. So if we require say 3 rows and 3 columns. So whatever we are doing for one row, we need to do it for subsequent rows. So here we require one repetition to get the columns for that particular row. Another repetition is to produce different rows with similar number of columns for this program. So we need two repetitions, one for columns and one for rows. So next question is whether both repetitions run one after another or one within another. Here, if you observe, in case of 2 cross 2, we are doing with particular row first, printing all columns, and then we are going to the new row. Meaning, one repetition is within another repetition. Repetition of printing columns, we need to put inside repetition of getting the rows. As simple as this, meaning it is a nested repetition. And here in this flowchart, already we are printing respective rows. Let's put it in another area for understanding that this flowchart, which is responsible to get a one row, we need to put inside a repetition of row, meaning whatever the highlighted area, it comes under repetition of rows. How it looks like, let's understand. Start. Now for this we require two values from the user. One is row, one is column. So in input we require now number of rows and number of columns. So input number of rows and number of columns. Now first we need to initialize a row variable. So row is equal to 1. How many times we need to produce row? It depends on condition. If this condition is false, then something. If this condition is true, then something. So here what my condition, how many rows I need to generate. Like in previous flowchart, I mentioned how many columns we need to generate. So how many rows? So row loop variable is row less than or equivalent to how many rows we require, that is on number of rows. What if this is true? True meaning we need to generate number of columns, and to generate a number of columns, this flowchart comes as it is, whatever I marked with dashed line. So now we need to generate a columns. So for that we need to initialize column with 1, then how many number of columns, and then printing, and then going to the next iteration by changing the value of column. So it comes as it is here, that column is equal to 1. Then how many columns? My loop condition is column is less than or equivalent to total number of column. What if it is false? What if it is true? What if it is false? What if it is true? If it is true, we need to display asterisk on screen. So print asterisk. We need to change value of column by adding a 1, and this is a loop. What if it is false? So false meaning we are done with one row. So instead of stopping a program, we need to produce another row, meaning we need to change value of row by adding a 1, and we need to move cursor to new line. So print new line. And after this, we need to go to the loop beginning, which is responsible to control number of rows. If it is false, we need to stop program. Now let's understand how it works. We are asking user how many rows, how many columns you want. The user is entering 2 rows. 3 columns, value of row is 1 here. Here row is 1, number of row is 2. Condition is true. Column is 1 here. Number of column 1 less than or equivalent to number of column is 3 here. Condition is true. Printing asterisk on screen. So it is going to print 1 asterisk. Column is equal to column plus 1. Value of column is 2 now. 2 less than or equivalent to 3. True. It is going to print 1 more asterisk. One more time. Column plus 1. So 3. 3 less than or equivalent to 3. Condition is true. One more asterisk on screen. Column plus 1. So now it is 4. 4 less than or equivalent to 3. Condition is false. False meaning adding 1 to row. So now value of row is 2. This condition is 2 less than or equivalent to 2. It is true, meaning initialization of column to 1 now. So value of column becomes 1 once again. And here the condition is again 1 less than or equivalent to total number of columns, that is 3. Here after adding 1, we have already moved to the new line. So cursor is here. So print asterisk, it prints in second line asterisk, column plus 1, value of column is 2. 2 less than or equivalent to 3, condition is true. One more asterisk, column plus 1, that is 3. 3 less than or equivalent to 3, true. One more asterisk, column plus 1, so 4. 4 less than or equivalent to 3, condition is false now, meaning adding 1 to row. So now row is 3, condition is 3 less than or equivalent to 2, it is false. Stop. And this is what the output which we are expecting out of our program. So this is a simple flowchart which prints asterisk on screen based on number of rows and number of columns. Let's check its Python program. We are already having something related to printing an individual row, but now we need to ask a user how many rows user wants. Currently I'm using while loop. After executing this program using a while loop, I'll convert it into a for loop as well. So now here let's take one row variable. Let's initialize it with 1. Let's have one condition while row is less than or equivalent to total number of row. If it is true, we need to initialize column as per flowchart. So column is equal to 1. And while column is less than or equivalent to number of column, printing asterisk, keeping and as it is, and adding value of column. Now, what if this condition is false? As per this flowchart, if it is false, we need to increase the value of row by 1 and moving to the new line. So if this condition is false, means here we need to increase the value of row by 1 and moving to the new line, which is as simple as putting the print statement, nothing meaning, and going to the new line, as I explained before. So this is by default. So print, I don't want to print anything, but moving cursor to the new line. So this is a simple Python program. Let's check its output. How many rows? Say 2 rows and 3 columns. So this is what the output which we are expecting. 5 rows, 5 columns. I'm getting 5 rows and 5 columns. 25 rows, 25 columns, 25 rows, 25 columns as an output. 6 rows and 10 columns, so 6 cross 10. So here I used while loop. Now let's use for loop. So in for loop, as per syntax statement becomes for my loop variable is row in range, and I need to give range here. Meaning initialization is not required because that I am initializing within the range. So I want to start with 1 up to number of row. It is not less than, it is less than and equivalent. So if I write only NR, meaning it is considered as less than, as number of row is not included. I want it as well, meaning let's use +1, meaning I want number of row +1, number of row and +1, and while statement is not required. Now for column in my range starts with 1 up to number of column +1, because number of columns I require. So initialization is not required, while is not required now. By default, it is going to increase value by 1, so that is also not required. Row, it is going to increase value of row 1 by 1 by default, so that is also not required. So my program looks like this. I converted my program from while to for. Let's check output. Number of rows 5. In each row I need 3 columns, so 5 cross 3. 8 rows and 8 columns, and this is what the output. This is a simple Python program, and this is a flowchart. In subsequent videos, I'm going to discuss how can we print different patterns on screen. I begin with the very first one. In next video, I will discuss how can we print this kind of triangle, left aligned, right aligned, pyramid, printing digits, and so on. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching this video and have a nice day ahead.